So hello, my name is Alessandro Sciarroni. I'm an Italian artist and we are in Berlin. This is HAU number 2. And tonight, like yesterday, I'm going to present 2 pieces of mine. The first one is called Untitled and the second one is called Joseph, and it's my solo.
Yeah.
Like every piece I do, there is a biographical need when I start the process that I have to solve, and then there is, of course, the translation of this need in relationship to the fact that you are going to show this in front of an audience that doesn't know anything about you. So you have to stop to be so selfish, thinking about what do you need on the stage. So, for example, for me, this is a solo where I wanted to come back to perform because I used to be a performer. I did it from my 20 to my 30 years old, and then I stopped because I stopped to work with this company I was involved in Italy, and I started to make my own pieces. So, since I was so used to being watched from outside as a performer, I didn't have some reasons anymore to move in a space as a performer. So basically discovering that using a very simple webcam and a big screen to see in real time how your movements are, it was allowing me to be at the same moment the eye, the external eye, and also the performer. So I was quite solving this problem using this technical tool. And then at the beginning it's been a little bit strange because I knew, like, from 1 year before, which was the title of the piece. It was going to be Joseph, but I didn't know at all what the piece was going to talk about. And
why Joseph?
This is a very good question, because I was walking in an Italian town that is called Bassano del Grappa. There is a very nice festival there, and there was a statue of a saint, of course, Saint Joseph. And I was walking and I saw this statue, and there was written in Latin "Ite ad Joseph," that is exactly written in like in English, J-O S-E-P-H, Joseph in English, Joseph in Latin. And I said to myself, okay, this is going to be the title of my first solo. And then it was. But of course, I didn't know anything about this, and I discovered this, of course. In this piece we use this very simple, and if you want also very banal video effect that you can find in every Mac product. We use photo booth, so we have this effect that change the shape of the body, and every kid will be better to do this than me, but I really discovered this when I was giving a workshop to some teenagers, and we were expecting something like 18 teenagers to come to this workshop, and then we had just 3 teenagers.
Oh, wow.
With teenagers is always like this, and I didn't know exactly what to do, because I was expecting really a big group, and then I had this computer, I had this video projector, and so we started playing with the camera and watching ourselves in real time, and then someone opened photo booth, and then I was just watching these 3 kids having fun with these instruments, and putting all the body, because normally you put just the face, but they were putting all the body, they were just choosing the songs that they wanted to dance with, and they were having fun, and I was just outside watching them, and I thought it was amazing, because and so when I discovered this, I already had in my mind the idea to develop something about chat roulette. That for me it was very interesting and also scary.
Yes. Can you explain for our audience a little bit what chat roulette is?
Chat roulette is not something new anymore. It's going very, very, very down now. When I remember in 2011, when I started the rehearsals of this solo, we had something 30,000 people online every moment. I remember yesterday it was only 2,500 people, so it's going more and more down. And basically is a video chat, but the peculiarity of this website is that you don't have to register yourself, you don't have to create an account. It's totally random. So when you press play, when you press next, a stranger is going to appear in front of you. And if you press another time next, you will switch to another one.
And the people is also watching you through your webcam.
So basically when you press next, whoever is online at the moment can appear in front of you. That is quite interesting because if you put this in a theater, I think that you have the access to someone who we can call the anarchist audience, you know, because normally when you go to the theater, you have to be very polite, you have to agree to a code, to a ritual, and also if you don't like very much the show, you never leave the venue. But in this case, it's totally the opposite. If they don't like you, they don't have to say sorry. They just go. They just disappear. And this for me was very interesting, also because if they find you ridiculous, they tell you that you are ridiculous. If they want to have fun with you, they have fun with you. They can dance with you. So every time the performance finishes in a different way, because of course we don't know who is going to appear.
Yeah, because that's amazing how you go from I got it in the beginning that kind of coding ourselves with a frame, and then it goes this progressive complexity of even the body and how you compose with the shape, and then suddenly boom. Besides checking your email, or because that was really interesting, and I don't even want to say more, but the how you were creating it was not only about the effects, there was also talking about how everyday these objects are, and at the same time how real they are in relationship to our expectations with them, and then suddenly boom, there is literally a hole in the space, a hole in the space of the theater.
Yeah, of course. What we wanted to show with this piece was not something magical and technological advanced, because it's really something that
it's quite advanced, but every accessible.
Yeah, it's very accessible, and so there was a moment during the rehearsal that we were using, for example, different cameras, but I really wanted at the end to keep it very simple, like anyone could do this in his own room. And so basically it's just, there is no narrative system in it, but if you see it from outside, it's just a man alone in a room having fun with his own image, and then after a while he got tired of playing with himself, and then he goes in the net to find someone else, someone real, real, and that's what the piece is about. The ending is very interesting because sometimes it can be very funny, it can be so hilarious. Like yesterday, I think it was. Sometimes it can be also very melancholic because no one stops, and so you just see faces as faces as faces. Maybe sometimes you also see someone who's not really enjoying your dance, and so they show that they find you ridiculous, and there is this strange feeling in the space because it's very bad, very unpolite sometimes. I remember this kid, maybe he was 12 years old. He was making these to me and screaming, "You're ridiculous! You're ridiculous!" And it was.
It's also how you open the context for any other kind of expectations, and I think that's. Because that's what I saw in the piece. There were like these very continuous breaks of, the private and the public. Then, us as spectators also reflected in this other side. I found that at the same time it was how we got used to this kind of bigger loop, there was no problem about using screens, it was like this actually interesting thing of like, okay, this is conceived to be watched over there, but we are you are in the foreground, yet the composition was actually really, really interesting. And then when the other person opened, it was, we are included also in a more round way.
what is very interesting for me and also scary at the beginning, because for me at the beginning when I was doing this in my house, you know, and I have to put my face there, you immediately feel judged, because in the moment they disappear because they don't like you, you know. And sometimes you can see very strange things going on there.
The sex
and also
or body parts.
You know, maybe we are more used in watching sex than. I remember one day I was in my house and I was making sort of rehearsals of the piece, and then a girl from the other side of the world appeared, and you could see just this part of her in the frame of the. And then she was having a baby here, and she was giving the milk with her breast.
Breastfeeding,
you know, and you could see only totally the face of the child and her body. And can you imagine this woman on the other side of the world doing this in front of a camera?
Conceiving that as a...
It's really scary. But I have to admit that also in the piece we try to don't give any kind of judges about this. Because I have to admit that it's beautiful sometimes, because in a click you have the access to thousands and thousands and thousands of self-portraits, and people is really putting themselves into the frame, and they really decide the way they want you to look at them.
It's kind of this performativity of the space that people is really they're kind of this emergent performances.
It looks like today it's a little bit fashionable, but it's not about today. Today they call it selfies. That is it's a word that I don't like, because it's more archetypical.
Like, it's archetypal.
It's and I mean I don't want one day to see my mother there. I'm not saying this, but at the same time I have to admit that it's so fascinating.
Like the anonymity that allows, and also how people create this, how you say, like these images. And I think that's quite poignant, because what is the difference actually in relationship with this legitimized form of theater and the other that is perceived as lowbrow sometimes.
And also for me what's surprising, because when we basically all the process of the rehearsal was very closed, so when they showed the first time the piece, and we realized that it was hilarious sometimes, for us it was very surprising. Because of course then I realized that if I put that costume that I don't want to talk about now, because I don't want to reveal the mechanism of the performance, it can be hilarious, because I don't have, you know, that male body, but I was not expecting so much. I was not aware about the hilarious potential of the piece, and it is also interesting because it puts the accent on something that can be very scary, but in a way that is not heavy. I don't know how to say. And today I think it's very important to. I remember there was a moment, especially during the 90s, at the end of the 80s, where it was important to somehow, I don't want to say to give a kick in the ass of the audience, but really to show them a strong experience of something that was real and was different from everything else that you were watching in television, you know? And now it's very important that we find a way to bring people again in front of live art, something that is happening here and now. And I think that what is still the potential of performance of if you can find a way to speak about something that is important without giving any prejudgments of this. And it also can be a very nice 30 minutes of your life. Why not? You see what I mean?
Well, like in a way, it felt very personal. You know, even with all your tropes or you know, gestures of personality. You know, the Joseph, and it's all nothing to do. But at the same time, it felt practically your own. You know, playing with your own. Perhaps like craving for visions or, you know, compassion, or what is that other, you know, like, because I felt that I was, you know, I felt that through you, and I was like, wow, how interesting creatures we are in relationship to have this need of companionship or feeling the other. Or feeling ourselves through the other.
Yeah, it's true. I remember one day it was also rehearsals, because in performance you don't have the time to stay so much there. But I remember in rehearsal there was this boy from Rome. He was 30 years old, so he was not a child, and he really wanted to play with anyone. This game, like he was pretending he was a man of 7 centimeters tall, like this. And you was a giant on the other side of the chat. So if you were doing something like this, he was doing, and he was going in chat roulette just to find someone to play this game. And I asked him, but what's the meaning of this? Why do you want to play this game? Is there something sexual for you? Is a sort of fetishism that you have? He said, no, there is nothing sexual in this. It's something that I like to play since I was a child. And so chat roulette, no one knows me, so I have the possibility to play with people with this, because in real life they are going to think that I'm crazy. Tomorrow we are going back to Bassano del Grappa, because we are in a residency there, so I just left people working alone there without me, because I had to come to Berlin. And we are making a research about the third chapter, let's call it like this, of a trilogy that we are making. The first show was about folk dance as a practice. The second one is the other piece we are going to show tonight, and it's about the practice of juggling. The third one will be about sport. And of course, we don't like easy rides. So the sport I choose to develop the research is called goal ball, like goal when you make a goal, ball. And it's a Paralympic game for blind people. And so it's a sort of, let's say, just to make you understand, it's a sort of handball played from blind people, and they have a ball that inside has some rings. So when they throw the ball, they detect the ball because they follow the sound. And it's so interesting. So for me, it's so powerful and violent also, because when you think about the world of a blind person, you imagine something very soft. Instead, this is very violent and so interesting.
And they go with it.
And And the ball is so heavy. It's like a ball for basket, like this kind of balls,
So it will be in the dark.
It will be in the dark. The name, the title of the name is Aurora. That means twilight. And
cool.
So we imagine that. At the beginning of the piece, the light will be very, very, very high and very strong, and then little by little, in 20 minutes, the light will go down and to create a sort of eclipse. So also the audience will be in the same
world.
State.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So hello, my name is Alessandro Sciarroni. I'm an Italian artist, and we are in Berlin. This is HAU number 2. And tonight, like yesterday, I'm going to present 2 pieces of mine. The first one is called Untitled, and the second one is called Joseph, and it's my solo. Like every piece I do, there is a biographical need when I start the process that I have to solve, and then there is, of course, the translation of this need in relationship to the fact that you are going to show this in front of an audience that doesn't know anything about you, and a big screen to see in real time how your movements are. It was allowing me to be at the same moment the eye, the external eye, and also the performer. So I was quite solving this problem using this technical tool. And then at the beginning it's been a little bit strange because I knew like from 1 year before which was the title of the piece. It was going to be Joseph, but I didn't know at all what the piece was going to talk about. And
why Joseph?
And this is a very good question because I was working in an you have to stop to be so selfish, thinking about what do you need on the stage. So for example, for me this is a solo where I wanted to come back to perform because I used to be a performer. I did it from my 20 to my 30 years old, and then I stopped because I stopped to work with this company I was involved in Italy, and I started to make my own pieces. So since I was so used to being watched from outside as a performer, I didn't have some reasons anymore to move in a space as a performer. So basically discovering that using a very simple webcam. And Italian town, it is called Bassano del Grappa. There is a very nice festival there. And there was a statue of a saint, of course, Saint Joseph. And I was walking and I saw this statue, and there was written in Latin, Ite ad Iosef, that is exactly written in like in English, J-O-S-E-P-H, Joseph in English, Iosef in Latin. And I said to myself, okay, this is going to be the title of my first solo. And then it was. And but of course, I didn't know anything about this, and I discovered this, of course. In this piece we use this very simple and, if you want, also very banal video effect that you can find in every Mac product. We use photo booth. So we have this effect that change the shape of the body, and every kid will be better to do this than me, but I really discovered this when I was giving a workshop to some teenagers, and we were expecting something like 18 teenagers to come to this workshop, and then we had just 3 teenagers. With teenagers it's always like this, and I didn't know exactly what to do because I was expecting really a